Hello, and we're back with episode 2. The first one, expressions from being, and the topic or the topic of the 10 questions was being. This one is on self. Expressing from my being. I can only honestly speak from my own experience from being and let that stand as the example of itself. I'm not speaking this for anyone else, dictating for anyone else, claiming for anyone else. Nothing. This is all me, myself, and I on me, myself, and I, so to speak. Me speaking from me, and that's it, on anything, and only on me, from me. You get it. All right, another one. 10 questions, 10 inquiries. The topic is the self. Which again, what is the self? It is, or, you know what? Yeah, you know what? No, I'll just start, and then, I'm literally trying to answer the last question at the beginning. Number 1, when do I feel most influenced by the self? By the state of the self, my physical state is the general, condensed answer for me. That is most influenced when there's more authenticity and harmony being witnessed and or experienced than performances, negativity, conflict, disruption, etc. I am physically just more content, more calm, more better everything, in more authentic, harmonizing, congruent environment, situations, anything. Even physically present. I'm speaking on like the self, the body self, your physicality. Everything that could be tied into coming from your very physical body. That is the self. In my understanding. That is how I am identifying it. There you go. That's the proper one. 2, what kinds of things naturally pull my attention into the self? Again, I answered that on number 1. So what kinds of things naturally pull my attention into the self? Same thing with being. When there's harmony, authenticity, there's no performance, just life being present when life is just primarily present. Family out together for a walk. You notice their mannerisms, like their body language, like it expresses their state of being, their state of mind, their state of self, even like it expresses their state, where you could I I can tell if like a family's walking together and they're aggravated, fighting, or just like there's just like disruption there. Like you can read it in the body language. It just or in tone, language mannerisms, stuff like that, vocal mannerisms. Also, again, you see them enjoying themselves. You see them walking together, smiling, talking lightly, laughing, harmonizing. Even just seeing that is just, you can't put a price tag on it. They say that, but everybody says that cliche, but everybody always does try to put a price tag on it. That's the one fault of the self in this environment. The kids are upstairs quietly, surprisingly, and I'm just like waiting for the next interruption. Because again, you got people doing things around you. I can't do this with, people around me, noise, the distractions, interruptions, disruptions. No. Yeah, what kind of things naturally pull my attention into the self? Just again, authentic expression. Like even somebody all dolled up, it there's just always it always tells. And the more authentic somebody even is physically presenting through their mannerisms, behaviors, and whatnot, it's just there. You just have to observe instead of project. Just have to just watch, not sit there and watch to determine or dictate. Just observe. Period. Stop. Just observe. Three, when does the self feel helpful to me? Well, since it's asking me, and I primarily, yeah, again, when does the self feel helpful to me? As in, when does the self feel helpful to my being? Because it is everybody already knows physicality, what the body is, what it does, etc. But for me, it's to put it into correct context, it's like a tool. I'm not downplaying it. It's like a tool to experience this reality. To say it as far deeply as I can. It's like that's exactly what everybody's doing. Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm not even going to out project that or just give outside examples. It's like I exist. I am aware. I'm aware of myself. That's not a physical thing. And that's primary for me. Therefore, it's secondary only in order of operations, like orientation, the way I operate. Physicality is secondary in that order of operations, the orientation of me. In that sense, like I said, I get to experience directly and indirectly everything that is within this reality. Which I'm not saying reality as if, like being delusional, as if they're bouncing around different ones. I'm just saying the state of things that is reality. I'm just simplifying everything we know. That's all. When does the self create friction for me? I'm really self-examining this one, which is what I should have been doing the whole time. Well, more so, but whatever. I'm not backtracking now. See, because I started that question like, what externally creates friction for my physicality? And, and how does that influence my being? But no, how does my physicality create friction for my being? That's a whole nother thing. Because it doesn't always listen. I mean, internally, they say, what you have to do. Even if it's, something difficult or something you don't want to do, or basically, okay, I'll give an example of cutting the neighbor's yard. It was high. I just did my own grass, and I was just sitting there on the porch facing his yard, taking a break. And who likes to always do more for no reason at all, just to do it? And that was the whole point. His grass looked high. I'm like, he hasn't gotten anybody yet. So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I literally thought it. And instead of allowing myself, my intelligence, so to speak, to sit, or my ego, or any of that stuff of the self to argue, oh, I'm too tired, this and that, I don't feel like doing it. I listened to my being and I simply got the F up, went over and mowed his grass. He didn't ask. He never hinted towards anything that needed it. I simply sat down, observed, seen it needed it. I know they don't have their own mower. And I wasn't sure who he was having get it done before. But it was just like, you know what? No thinking, just shut up and do it. And it's like, when you listen to the self more than there I go again. When I listen to my layer of self, my physicality, within limits, more than my being, that causes friction. That causes disruption in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, if I'm sick, if I'm physically incapable, that's different. If I hurt my ankle and I want to get up and go for a jog, obviously my physicality is going to be like, no, I trump your opinion right now, or your desire, or your want. But, yeah, if you're just physically tired, but like my being is just like still ramped up and roaring to go, I don't have to listen to my body. I mean, everybody knows that. I hope I'm not going to do that. Everybody knows whatever the hell they know. I'm only talking about what I know. But yeah, I noticed that even on my first job, I was nine. What was it? No, yeah, 18. It was a month and a half after my 18th birthday. I got my first full-time job, which is at a thrift store. Oh, the labor of that place! Holy crap! That was a heck of a workout, all day, every day. But the environment was so positive, and like everybody was so nice. There was hardly any conflict, really. Sometimes between one or two coworkers, nothing that bad, but that always overrode my physical exhaustion from that job. I mean, yeah, I'd go home and I'd end up passing out for an hour practically every day. I'd get out at 3:30, I'd get home at 4, and I'd just lay in bed and I'd just fall asleep until like 5:30 and get up, jump in my car, and head out. But it's like when I listen more than I should of my physicality when I don't need to, when it's in the wrong order, friction happens. Like, you got something to do, but your body is just like feeling like you're running on empty. Well, unless you're injured, that is the friction, because that is when you're supposed to say, well, that is when I say, I'm sorry, I keep doing that. That is when I tell myself, screw you, get off your butt, do it. That is how I operate, except sadly, no, the weight of suffering, no, that has more to do with, even if it's through the self, like, people around you affecting you physically and whatnot, that's still primarily being related for me. That's influenced first, and then like say physical emotions are influenced then after. All right, I'm not going to sit on that more than that. 5, why do people seem so identified with roles, labels, or status? I don't know if I want to go external like that on that question. Yeah, I'm to the side. I generate these questions. I just skimmed over it, and I'm like, you know what? This sounds really, really, like I'm really curious about. No, I'm not joking. This ain't performance. This ain't rehearsed, scripted, nothing. I just got 10 questions on the screen. I'm reading one at a time as I answer. I'm not looking ahead. I just briefed over them to make sure they aren't just all over the place. Make sure they're, aligned to the point of self being the topic. And I'm just curious. I'm just like curious how I'm even going to respond That's what I mean. It's just as enjoyable for me as, well, an audience I don't have, but I don't care. I mean, I not in the same sense. Why do people seem so identified with roles, labels, or status? Why? Okay, now I can't speak for other people, so that's incorrectly put. Other than seem, I mean, again, I'm not speaking, I can't speak for other people's values, even if they're backwards to some and not to others. Even if people get fulfillment from status, ego, identities, money, fame, freaking power, all that nonsense. I didn't create them. I don't dictate them. Until they influence me negatively, then let them be as they are and just... That one goes too far. I don't want to explain. Why they seem so identified with roles, labels, or status. Again, that's never been I've never sat in that seat before. Even when I was judgmental of others, it wasn't of the person themselves, any part of them. It was what they do, the disruption they cause is what I always damned and judged and negative towards in the past. Is my eye still red from that earlier? I ain't even gonna start touching it. Freaking allergies. Because even when I was like, still playing those games, just popularity. It really wasn't, I don't care for popularity. I just wanted more harmony and congruence and presence with other people, and participation, and none of the ego and nonsense and all the freaking conflict from stupid things to me. Like, for instance, like, yeah, I know, childish things, like even back in, grade school, because being condemned for having poor parents and not having the most expensive name brand clothes, and then you get bullied for it, and then the people who have successful parents have things and name brand stuff and everything else are like, oh, the popular ones. I never understood that, because it's like, because you could, from even my childhood, even going through school and all that dynamics, it's like I could always tell who were genuinely good, authentic people and who wasn't. And it's like, I'm seeing basically somebody who wasn't authentic and was more of a piece of crap. And it's like, you see all these people just flock to them. And it's like, what? Like, why? Even as a kid, I was just like, why? The person is so, their behavior and the way they treat people, the way they talk to others is just putrid, negative. Especially like bullying people, stuff like that. It's like, why would you associate with that? What? Just because their presentation is better, of superficiality? Like, I don't know why people are and then of course I added fulfilled in that too, identified and fulfilled with roles, labels, status, and all that. Again, I covered this again when the first time I was digging through the self, like the I don't know how to put that. concentrating on a singular topic, and that singular topic is the self, only self. Concentrating, contemplating internally on what that is, period. And can't remember or re-articulate what I articulated on the self. How it's always externally determining itself. I can't remember why I said that, or why I determined why it does that. Why the self is always externally defining itself when everything externally is these days is just, well, it's, from my point of view, for all my life has been nonsense. From childhood through adulthood, people conflict over nonsense. That's me, though. I'm not dictating anyone else. So I don't know why people seem so identified with roles. I mean, I've never been I've never been fulfilled in the self without including my being, because that's always present, primary, and always is. So I cannot put myself in that way. Nor can I understand how and why people are so identified with roles, labels, or statuses. Like, that doesn't define who you are. You think even the president goes around and is completely transparent and honest in every single physical expression he does, or majority of anyone else? And that's exactly what I'm presenting here. Just me. No mask, no roles, no hidden agenda, no performance, just me. What you see, what you hear is what you get. I'm expressing myself, not for any reason, but to express and share on myself, on being from myself. Six. Why do some people seem performative while others feel authentic? It's not really seem, it's trying to think, or I'm digging, contemplating. What makes them negative? It's like, what do I notice? Again, like mannerisms and behavioral patterns, the way that, like exactly what I said earlier on, like the family example, taking a walk. You know, the way they present themselves, the state they present themselves, even if they're not aware of it. If somebody's in a bad state of being, bad state of mind, bad state of anything, they're going to give tells. They're going to give signs. You're not going to get what I'm trying to present here. Just expression of being, expression of self, just no disruption or external influences, just 100% them. And others feel authentic, like I just said. They're just being themselves. They're not trying, even if they're not aware of it, even if they're naturally aligning in a performance that is aligning with their authenticity. Again, like a firefighter who is authentically, deeply caring for helping other people. That's a societal role. That is a physical. That's not a performance. That's still a physical doing, a societal process, structure, however you want to call it. But it's more authentically aligned. Well, as an example, with somebody who's authentic and who is actually aligned with what they're doing and being, even if they're not aware of their being to that degree. Performative, when not authentic, it's just basically pleasing the body. It's just pleasing the physicality in some way, shape, or form with nothing else in mind or influenced or included but serving the self. That's the performative part from my point of view. It's like to take it to the extreme, it's like a robot in comparison. Like there's, again, and another, now I'm just going to say this as an outside example and be done with it, and I'm going to quote outside. Again, like that popular thing going around that call people NPC, where their awareness is lacking, awareness of their being. It's like that. It's like when it's not authentically aligned, it's just performative. You see somebody, say, doing a job they don't want to do that doesn't align with, the things that align, that make them harmonize and can be in congruence. It shows. Somebody will be a miserable coworker. They'll just be unhappy. They'll be constantly complaining. And yet, if you do something that harmonizes with you, you're not complaining. You're having a good time. It's no longer really work. It might be physical work, but it's enjoyable. Just like I mentioned earlier about the thrift store. I busted my ass. I mean, I honestly wish I had some, at least in shorts, only shorts pictures back then, because, I mean, I was skin and bones, but I was lean, so lean. Because, like, I was lifting up freaking old 70s and 80s sofa beds by myself, picking them up about 3 to 3.5 feet and placing them on top of a dolly. On just a little cart that was like 4 feet long by 3 feet wide. Which again, I'd pick it up like on the back and then the front bottom. Just lean it up, put it on my knee, line up the cart behind it, and then just pick it up about a foot in the air and just drop it on top of the cart. It's like, again, it was just enjoyable environment. So I was physically beat all the time and getting a heck of a workout, but it was enjoyable. Some people seem Okay. I'm moving on. I don't know if I covered that. 7, what do I mean when I say people can outsource themselves? I just said that. Like the self outsources itself. Because, it's going to be a good one. I wish I had an X-ray thing. You'd see cogs going. Why does the self outsource itself? Because it's got nothing to base itself on. Unless there is a level, now I'm just thinking out loud, unless there's a level, contemplating out loud, whatever you want to call it. Quite frankly, there ain't no real freaking words to describe all that which is going on within. But the self with no, there it is, nice. I'm literally like 2 different places at once. I'm speaking, but all internally. If the self has nothing, that's the difference between being and self. There it is again. The being starts out knowing its self, its being, aware of its own being. The self does not begin awareness knowing the self, because what is that? You're new. You don't know how to be a human being completely yet. And then what are you doing? You outsource. You're looking family, the local community, friends, everybody outsource. You're always looking like, and then some people find the harmony, the congruence, the authenticity of it, if that is able to be present. But if what's out there is primarily disruptive, ego, identity with no roots, just consume and whatnot, it's like, well, you're outsourcing yourself, you're outsourcing self to examples that are primarily distorting the self by only serving the self. And therefore, what do you get? An endless machine running and consuming itself. Yeah. You know what? I'm moving on from that. That was good. I'm just going to leave that there. I like that. 8, why has the self caused so much friction in my life? Honestly, it's not the self that caused friction in my life. It's the incompatibility of being and the amount of disruption there is in the world. And it has been in my proximity my whole life. I'm not whining about it. I grew up primarily always in a negative environment. I'm guilty of that too. My own negative influence of myself. I don't know everything. I make mistakes, and just like everybody else, even for myself, even to myself. Yeah, why has the self caused so much friction in my life? Again, because now it wouldn't cause any friction if I was in a positive and harmonious environment. You put me in a freaking, like, say, a southern community where people have good, genuine, What's that? Southern hospitality, where it's genuine and, not performative, and there's more presence and harmony than there is friction, judgment, and nonsense. Then, yeah, myself wouldn't my physicality wouldn't have caused so much friction in my life and my being, because my environment and those around me would be more harmonious, constant, flowing, and congruent. More positive environment produces positive results, whether it be you, your environment, anything you do. You can't continuously do negativity and expect it to turn into positivity. It does not work like that at all. That I will dictate. 9. What do I mean when I say the self can influence being? Again, how else can your being be influenced here except through the self? Because if I had no body, no self to be in, where would I be? When would I be? And it's not to go that deep. The self can influence the being. Again, go into some. Now, I'll suggest this outwardly first. Go somewhere that just eases everything up. It like takes the weight of everything you're carrying and just lets it melt away, even for a moment. Somewhere, I'm not talking somewhere bad, like anything, any substance, or just somewhere by yourself to just sit and be. Even if it's a park, and just somewhere where, you orient towards that is more harmonious for yourself, and you will notice it will influence your being. If I take a walk in the woods, I can't experience that without physically participating. That's how it influences my being, because I am participating through this physicality. Which, again, saying that out loud like that sounds a little wonky. No, I'm not two different people. There are layers of your existence. Your intangible self, not the level of self, but the intangible part of you is your being. Because it's you. You cannot pull it out and show it. You can't look at it under a microscope. All you could do is express it. Exactly what I'm doing here. 10. What do I actually mean by self? Actually, that's what I was trying to describe in the beginning. Like, wait, I'm going to be explaining the end in the beginning. Like I said, I'm backwards oriented. Literally. I start at the whole and then fill in the blanks. Like, what was the topic was the self. And then every question was simply examples of it to fill in what the self is. Which I already explained that. in all the previous questions. Which, again, yeah, like what do I actually mean by self? Again, I just explained it. It's your physicality. It's everything we know for certain of physicality and what it influences, what it does, etc., etc., etc. But again, what hasn't been, mapped out, I hate doing that, as they claim, or directly observed, has been the level of your being, your intangible you. So the self is everything we know of the physical body. That is the self. Because that's the thing externalized the most. You start out, your body knows how to function, but then the self is like, well, what do I do? And then it's outsourcing. Except from being, and may God put a lightning bolt right, that which is God, may send the lightning bolt right through my head right here on screen if I'm lying. My being has never been externally dictated or outsourced. It has been the constants that always has been since I was 3 years old. No, like I said again, it wasn't 24/7 awareness, because again, no 3-year-old kid has the physicality developed to be like that all the time. Like again, I probably got, that might even be my only memory from 3 years old. I mean, every other memory, I mean, I don't know, I got nothing to go on based on age. But that one I remember. Because that one thing has not, that, they call it memory, that event has not changed since then. Like, people say, oh, your memory changes, no. I could literally sit here and internalize everything. Color of the porch, the slats of wood, and the brick stairs, and the weird, like the railings on the side of the brick stairs were brick, and they were like 2 feet wide, and they went like this, going down. There was a giant, I don't know if it was oak tree, there was a big tree there they cut down. I remember the fence. Like, yeah, I could sit here and go back into other memories, but I'm literally just sitting here, just like it. I don't have a photographic memory. I can't picture a photo. I could like just internalize the event, so to speak. Like, I don't need, like, it has nothing to do with sight, because I'm just over here looking. Just my eyes are just not even focusing. Right now, I still can't remember his name. I said that in another video too. Now, you see, now I might mess myself up, because now I start thinking of the guy's name, the kid's name, my brother's friend. All right, well, yeah, 15 minutes. Yeah, that was a quick one. Yeah, that was a quick one. I could sit here and do this all day. With no script, no prep. All I need is respect and privacy. And there will be many, many more like this as they go. Have a nice day.